Sup nerds, Tom here. Let's take a look at Kanban. So this is a Vital Lacerda game, and if you don't know what that means, it means dude makes big games. Now, I haven't played all of his games, but I do know that a lot of his games tend to be really heavy, in like that upper echelon heavy, where it like becomes another category, where they're mostly Euro, but a lot of the times people will say that they do kind of come together, which is one thing that I really liked about this game, is that everything does kind of feel like it comes together. So it's at its core, it's a Euro worker placement game where we place our workers down in this line here on different spaces, and the spaces correspond to the area we're going to get to do our actions in, and also the number of actions we're going to get to do at that place, which is pretty cool, a little unique, and it also resolves this way. So there's these two spaces here that correspond to this area here. The one over here on the, well, to my right, but on the left here, it will give you 2 actions, but the one over here will give you 3 actions. So you can go there and have 3 actions, but somebody can go in front of you and have 2 actions. So you're mostly getting car designs and car parts, and you're pushing cars out here, testing them and taking them into your garage and upgrading them and stuff. Like, you generally use parts to push cars out and use designs to pick up cars, but you can also upgrade the designs with the car parts. And there's goals, there's public goals, and you have personal goals and little goals here that are... So obviously there's a lot of stuff going on here, and of course I can't go over even like 5% of it. But it was a game that after playing it, I remember driving home and thinking like, wow, I can't believe that I actually thought that game was complicated. Like, I was intimidated sitting down. I was like, okay guys, it took me a long time to read through the rules. There's a lot of stuff to go on. I know there's going to be a lot of questions, so, feel free, don't feel bad if you're overwhelmed, because I'm overwhelmed too. Like, we got to make sure we get it. But after a couple of rounds, and again, everything feeds into itself. It's a lot like Cerebria in that effect. And, his other games are like Lisboa and The Gallerist and all that kind of stuff. Because at the end of the day, there really aren't that many different areas of the board. Like I said, pushing cars out and upgrading designs and testing the cars and stuff, that's a huge area where you get points. That's most of it. So these 2 areas are mostly where you get points. This is just picking up car parts mostly, and this is just picking up designs mostly, and this is mostly like scoring stuff towards the end. And actually you can go here at this, these can be kind of like wild spaces, will let you do things in other areas, but it's all the way at the end of the track, and it's fewer. It's only 1 or 2 actions. So going there it's not like a last ditch effort, but if you're like, no, I need to be in this area, and you 2 already took up, the 2 areas for the space, so I just got to come here. And we have this AI character, Sandra, who kind of hops around and eventually, like, she acts as I don't know, she's checking your points, kind of. She's going to every area, checking things that you've done in that area, and there's either mead mode or nice mode. She'll either give you a bonus for doing something or a penalty for not doing something, but she also kind of acts as a bit of a round tracker. Like, when she comes back here, that counts as a week, and also the cars that get pushed out here, when that makes a full, well, not a full circle, when it gets all the way around to here, that counts as, that'll move this up towards having a meeting. So there are a couple of things like that can be a little funky. It's not like a tough game to wrap your head around initially, but remembering little things like that, okay, remember this is meetings and this is the end of the week. And remember, the game will end when one of them is at 3 and the other one is at 2. And remember, once you upgrade like a car part in the blue car, now that's the, if it's pink, that's the first one you have to put up here when you're trying to push the blue car out. A lot of little things like that, again, you'll get overall, but somebody will have to be there as sort of a rules lawyer to be like, wait, remember, this affects this, and this is a little bit more different than that. Okay, now that you have this special ability, and that's another thing, you have tracks in every area that you can push up, and once you get up to a certain area, you have like unlocked things, like, unlock an extra area in your garage, unlock an extra area to place car parts, but you can kind of get special abilities like this. If you unlock here in the car designs area, it'll allow you to take more. And there's also like there's rules about, these stacks, like when people start taking car designs over here, there's rules about how these stacks come and refill. So I don't know if those rules are super necessary. I mean, it's not that big. I mean, again, a rules lawyer person will be like, oh, no, you're supposed to fill top row first, then the second row, or whatever, But ultimately, I think most people will be like, whatever, that's not that big a deal. But those types of things are in there. I also really, really like the way that they use time in this game. Again, like I said, when you place workers, you have a certain number of actions, which they call shifts, right? So you have a certain amount of time that you are going to spend in that area, so to speak. But you can also bank shifts. So you can take little tokens of shifts and bank them on this track over here, so that you can spend them later. And then you still have a limit. You can only ever do as many as 4 shifts in a day because there's only so much time in a day. You can't keep doing more. But it is interesting that you can take fewer actions now to have a baller turn later, or kind of like I said here, this one area here that's wild. Oh, but when you come here, you have less time. Like this spot right here is only 1 shift. Right, but if you have a bunch of bank shifts, you can just be like, oh yeah, well, I'm going to come here and I'm going to do 4 shifts. But boom. Overall, there really are a lot of things that I liked about this game. I liked all of the options. I liked how everything came together. And I do really like how everything feels kind of plentiful. Like if you're looking at this track over here, as you advance on that track, that's like your upgrade track. As you advance on these, I'm going to say track again. As you advance on all these little tracks that are in every single section, and you pass by and you get your unlock thing and your special ability, you'll advance up on this track too. And there's tons of things printed on the board for you to get bonuses, get bank shift, get wild parts, get books, which you can spend in addition to your shift to move up on these tracks even more. Whenever you put cars in your garage, there's stuff printed there that you can get. When you get all the way to the top of these tracks, you get bonuses. So it's, again, one of those games that feels very plentiful. There's so much stuff out there. You never feel really constricted. I mean, and I guess kind of if you do, maybe you're not playing it right. Like there needs to be somebody to be there, be like, look, dude, bank shifts if you can. Don't spend, all of your designs immediately, because then you're going to have to come to this area. And if you can't come to that area, well, you kind of screwed yourself. But it does feel like, I have so many options. What's the best way for me to use all this stuff? Instead of it feeling like, I have nothing I can do. What's the thing I can do? Now, on to some of the complaints that I do have with the game. And to be honest, a lot of the complaints aren't really mechanically. I think most of the gameplay and stuff is pretty solid. Maybe a couple nitpicky things that I'll talk about. And more of the things that I don't like tend to be more of like the component quality. But I'll get to that in a second. But I do want to say that when it comes to these types of games, I have a bit of a caveat when something's like the upper echelon in terms of complexity. When I play my Euro games, I like them to be on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the hardest. I like it between like a 5 and an 8. I don't like them to be too easy because then it's kind of boring. But as they start getting too hard, eventually there's a bit of they start becoming a different category. Now, let's just say, for the sake of argument, that this is like a 9 or a 10. Of course, some people you're probably going to say, I played games way more complicated than that, and that's fine. But again, for the sake of argument, let's call this a 10. I kind of have a different metric by which I would rate these heavy upper echelon games. Because I don't get to play them all that often, they're probably never going to really hit my top 10 games just by virtue of it. I have to be in the mood to play these games. They take a long time. I need to play with the right people, because you can't just play these games with anybody. You need to have the time to explain the rules to new players. And if they're new, they're kind of a little bit of a disadvantage, because maybe they're just kind of, they don't really know what to do. So it's kind of like, I'm in film school. I love movies. So there's movies that I'll watch anytime. I'll watch Mission Impossible, Inception, like superhero movies, Looper. There's movies that I really like that, are pretty obvious and good, and I'll watch them kind of anytime. There are other movies that are a bit deeper, a bit slower, but I still really like them, like Annihilation, A Ghost Story, The Invitation, Ex Machina to a certain degree. That one is, that one's almost in the I'll watch it anytime category. Well, I still really like those movies, and they're a lot deeper and more contemplative, and they're a bit slower. It's hard to compare those directly with a Mission Impossible Fallout or Searching. So I just feel like they need to be in a different category, but I'm not demoting them in any way to put them in this category. And that's how I feel with these really, really big games. Probably the only complaint I have with this game, gameplay wise, is that there maybe are one too many rules. It's a little bit finicky. Again, I think a good example is that, once I upgrade the pink piece in the blue car, let's say, I don't know, what was that, engine? Whatever. Once I upgrade pink, that has to be the first thing that you put up here when you push it out. Now, does that help the gameplay at all? Does that add balance or whatever? Maybe, I don't know, but, it just felt like a little bit of extra bookkeeping that wasn't super necessary. And I guess I also, when we come to the meetings, I didn't really love the way that I liked the idea of the chairs, and you put chairs to claim the goals, and whoever claims the goals first gets more points for it, so to speak. Or I guess you can score it more times, kind of. I like that you get to score goals multiple times. That's always cool to, you're kind of somewhat incentivized to double down on a goal and hope that you're going to get there first to score it a bunch of times. But the fact that you have that pet project, like the card, you have a card that you're going to add to the public scoring, for the end of for the next round, and a card that you're going to score right now, and that is a requirement. But it's kind of weird because you're like, well, it's something you're going for. I'm going to go for this goal that I'm going to put in front of me. But if I'm going for it and somebody else is going for it, in the meetings, you have actions. You either claim a goal or place your pet project out there. So if I place it out there, it's really possible that other people claim it before me. So I had this goal and I was looking at it the whole time, and then I didn't get to complete it. But that might be a bit of a, if you've played the game before, you know that the one that you're going to place in front of you, maybe you might not complete it. So the one that you're going to add to the main board that, they're going to be the public goals for the next meeting, that's probably the one you should focus on. But the complaints that I have about the physical aspects of the game, overall, the board is a little bit busy. It's great art and it looks really cool, and there's a lot of lines that help and everything, and it's really thematic, all the chairs and everything. But the game is intimidating enough to where I don't feel like we need to flip out the board and everybody goes, whoa, what's going on here? To be honest, I can't really think about offering solutions because I don't want to clean up the board too much to make it not look thematic and not look pretty. It's just has a little bit of kind of a migraine-y table presence where when you pull this out for the first time, people are going to look and go, what's going on there? In terms of the component quality itself, it's not bad. These cards aren't super thin. I mean, they're okay. Everything is in the acceptable range. Card parts being cubes, not a big deal. This giant cube right here, I don't know. It kind of feels like this game was kickstarted and didn't hit all the stretch goals, but at least the driver's edition, all the cars are different shaped meeples. The yellow ones are like SUVs. The blue ones are what are those? Like a Toyota Yaris. And there's a smart car, and then there's some sports cars. So that's interesting, at least. But probably my biggest complaint with the production quality of this, and I don't know if this is production quality, but my biggest complaint with the production of the game, also the box is kind of flimsy. It's a little thin, and I really don't like the shape of it. It's ever so slightly wider than most of my other, the square FFG game boxes, or even other square boxes from Stronghold. And it's a little thinner, so it's kind of an awkward place to put it on the shelf, and it's really, so when I say it's thinner, it's not as tall as the other games, so it's an awkward place to put it, but also the cardboard is pretty thin, so I'm afraid if I put a smaller box on it and it's kind of heavy, that it'll push down and kind of ruin the cover. But, I mean, that's just me. I really like to keep my things nice and neat. But I did have a bit of an issue with the rulebook. It felt like they mixed, flavored text in with the rules a little too much. There's a lot of in-game terminology that gets used over and over again. But also, Sandra, she has a nice mode and a mean mode, and she jumps in to give you information, and it's kind of information that's important to the game, but it's said in a flavor texty kind of way that, I just don't really love. Sometimes when I'm just flipping through the rulebook, mid-game, I'm like, oh, we need to double check on something. I want to just be able to see it, plain as day, black and white. This gets you points for that, and this works like that. Other than those issues that I brought up, I do really enjoy the game. It's probably one of the best games of this metric that I've played in a while. Probably Cerebria is also really high up there. It's also been a while since I played Lisboa, so, it is... Again, with these types of games, I don't get them to the table very often. So to try and compare them, I have to remember, well, way back when I actually had time to play this really, really heavy game before, how did I feel about that? So it's again, hard for me to compare this to other games. Again, it's just so much more complex that, again, I feel like it needs to hit a different metric. But I think in that other metric, it does great. Really tons of fun. You'll get it after a little while. And if any of what I was talking about sounds interesting to you, I'm going to put a purchase link in the description box down below. Get yourself a copy. And while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you'll never be bored. Probably between, on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the easiest and, sorry, the other way around. I'll just start that over.